Welcome to the Configure Price Quote Podcast. My name is Frank Sohn and I'm the founder of CPQ Consulting. This podcast is 100% focused on Configure Price Quote, also known as CPQ, and will provide you useful insights into this topic. Hello everyone. Due to some vacation plans, we have another short episode of the CPQ podcast today, and I want to touch on a couple of different topics. The first one is I would really like to ask you once again to provide feedback for the podcast online. This came up since some listeners mentioned how helpful the podcast has been, that they had used it to prepare for interviews, that they listen to it regularly and really appreciate the content that's provided, and that's great. But when I went online and checked how much feedback we get for the podcast, it's mixed across a bunch of different platforms. Obviously on Apple Podcasts, I think it was around 20, Google Podcasts, Spotify and so on has less. And then I thought, okay, it would make sense to ask you once again, if you listen to the podcast regularly, please provide your feedback. I would say the easiest way to do that is you probably use Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever and ask how you can provide feedback on the platform that you use for your podcast if you don't know how it works anyway. So that's the best way, and that should also ensure that more listeners can find us easier online, since the podcast seems to be helpful for lots of people, and we want to keep making sure that more people can find it and use it as a resource. That's one thing. The other thing is we also got some feedback about the CPQ Sales Report and how that can be bought online. And there were some complaints that it could be easier, and we're still working on that. But nevertheless, I see based on the numbers that we sell that it's still acceptable. But I wanted to acknowledge that there is room for improvement, and for the mid to longer term, we are looking for ways to make that easier to buy these reports online. Nevertheless, if you're interested in that, it's typically straightforward. If in doubt, just send me an email to frank.zone@novacpq.com. Tell me what you're looking for, and then we will address it as quickly as possible if you cannot figure out on the website how it works. And I heard that once or twice now, and just wanted to acknowledge that that's still something we are working on. And also, since we're talking about the CPQ Sales Report, there is another report that's finally coming out. There were some unexpected delays which have been addressed, hopefully by now. At least that's what I expect here within the next 24 hours that's finished. And I will need to do the translation into German, and then the report will be available and announced here very soon. Thank you very much, everyone, on that one. Another thing I wanted to mention also is I had mentioned in a recent podcast that there are some upcoming webinars. There were 3 webinars, and they will become available to register starting next week. So that would be the week of June 16th. You will see that a little bit later, probably June 17th or so. And later you will see the chance to register for these different webinars. So, and that's still the 3 that I had mentioned the last time, so I don't want to go there again, but just to let you know that since I got a couple of emails already where people wanted to register, I wanted to let you know there's also this official way where you can register here pretty soon, starting the week of June 16th, when this will become available, and you will probably see some announcements from this one also on LinkedIn. Then also want to give you an outlook over the next couple of guests. We will have a summer break here sometime in the summer, not sure yet when, but we will definitely have one for 4 to 6 weeks, similar to last year. But until then, we have a number of very interesting guests, and also, yeah, I just leave it at that at the moment. So, but watch out for this. Should be a number of system integrators, vendors. There will also be talk about other topics, and very much looking forward to the next couple of weeks with these podcasts. So this is the last of these short CPQ podcasts, but at least I wanted to provide some clarification and some notes before we resume our regular schedule here by June 22nd. I'd like to thank everyone for listening and hope you learned something interesting today. If you like the podcast, please go ahead and rate it on iTunes or share it with your friends and colleagues. In the meantime, you can find us online at www.novocpq.com. So long, everyone.